The kiss lasted exactly 3 seconds, but it completely destroyed the comfortable friendship I'd spent 2 years building with my roommate Derek. Every time I walk into a room, his eyes follow me like I'm some kind of puzzle he can't figure out, and I'm starting to wonder if that stupid dare was actually a joke at all. Before we get into this mess, drop a comment and let me know what city you're watching from. And if you want to hear more stories about roommates, dares, and the chaos that follows when lines get crossed, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, this story is just getting started. Let me back up and explain how I ended up in this situation. My name is Connor, I'm 24, and I've been living with Derek since we both graduated college and moved to Chicago for work. We met during freshman orientation, became best friends almost immediately, and when we both got job offers in the same city, getting an apartment together seemed like the obvious choice. Derek worked in marketing for a tech startup, and I was doing graphic design for an advertising agency. We had completely different schedules, different friend groups, different lives in most ways, but living together just worked. We'd established a rhythm over the years. We knew each other's quirks, respected each other's space, and had that easy kind of friendship where you don't have to perform or pretend. Derek was the kind of guy who made friends everywhere he went. Tall, athletic, with this confident energy that drew people to him like a magnet. He played in a recreational basketball league, went out drinking with his coworkers every Friday, and always seemed to have plans. Meanwhile, I was more introverted, preferring quiet nights with a good book or working on personal art projects. We balanced each other out perfectly. He'd drag me out of my comfort zone when I was getting too isolated, and I'd remind him to slow down when he was burning himself out trying to be everywhere at once. It was a good friendship, a safe friendship, until that stupid party ruined everything. It was a Saturday night in early October, and Derek's marketing team was throwing a Halloween party even though Halloween was still 3 weeks away. Derek had been talking about it for days, insisting I come with him because his coworker Brad was bringing his younger brother, who was apparently single and exactly my type. I'm not going to a party so you can set me up, I told him for the 3rd time that week. Come on, Connor, Derek said, throwing a pillow at me from across the living room. When's the last time you went on a date? When's the last time you even talked to a guy who was onto me or someone from work? I have a very fulfilling life. Thank you very much, I replied, not looking up from my sketchbook. Drawing fantasy landscapes and talking to your plants doesn't count as fulfilling, Derek said. You're coming to this party. End of discussion. That's how I ended up at a crowded loft apartment in River North, surrounded by people in half-hearted costumes, nursing a beer I didn't really want. Brad's brother, as it turned out, was nice enough but spent the entire conversation talking about his CrossFit routine and his macros. I excused myself after 15 minutes and found Derek in the kitchen, laughing with a group of his coworkers. How'd it go with Jason? Derek asked, grinning like he already knew the answer. If I have to hear one more word about clean eating, I'm going to scream, I said flatly. Derek laughed and threw his arm around my shoulders. Come on, I'll make it up to you. Let's play some games. That should have been my cue to leave. Games at parties always led to chaos. But I was already there, and Derek had that look in his eyes that meant he wasn't taking no for an answer. So I followed him to the living room where someone had organized a game of truth or dare. I know what you're thinking. Truth or dare? What are we? 16. That's exactly what I thought too. But alcohol was involved and people were having fun, and I figured I could sit on the sidelines and watch the entertainment unfold. For the first few rounds, the dares were relatively tame. Someone had to call their ex, someone else had to post an embarrassing photo on Instagram, that kind of thing. I was starting to relax, thinking maybe this wouldn't be so bad, and then it was Derek's turn. Truth or dare? Called out a woman named Sophie from his marketing team. Dare, Derek said without hesitation. He never chose truth. That would require vulnerability, and Derek preferred action over introspection. Sophie's eyes lit up with mischief. I dare you to kiss the person in this room you're most attracted to. The room went silent for a beat, everyone waiting to see what Derek would do. I assumed he'd kiss Sophie, or maybe Jessica from accounting who he'd been flirting with earlier. Instead, Derek turned to look at me. Connor, he said, and there was something in his voice I couldn't quite read. Come here. I laughed because I thought he was joking. Derek had never given any indication that he was interested in guys. In the 6 years I'd known him, he'd exclusively dated women. This had to be some kind of bit, some way of dodging the dare by making it funny. I'm serious, Derek said, his eyes locked on mine. The dare was to kiss the person I'm most attracted to. So come here. My heart started pounding. Everyone was watching us now, the room thick with anticipation. I could feel my face heating up, could see the slight smile playing at the corner of Derek's mouth. He was messing with me. He had to be messing with me. I stood up, planning to play along with whatever joke this was. I walked over to where Derek was sitting, expecting him to laugh and point at someone else, to reveal the punchline. Instead, he reached up, put his hand on the back of my neck, and pulled me down into a kiss. It wasn't a peck. It wasn't a quick, joking kiss designed to get laughs. Derek kissed me like he meant it, his lips soft and warm against mine, his hand firm on my neck. For 3 seconds, the world narrowed down to just the two of us. To the taste of beer on his lips and the feeling of his fingers in my hair. When he pulled back, The room erupted in cheers and laughter. Everyone thought it was hilarious. This great joke between two straight roommates, but I couldn't laugh. I couldn't even speak. I just stared at Derek, trying to understand what had just happened, and he stared back with an expression I'd never seen before. That was the moment everything changed. I made an excuse about having an early morning and left the party shortly after. Derek stayed behind, and I didn't see him until late the next morning when he stumbled into the apartment, clearly hungover, but in high spirits. "Last night was wild," he said, heading straight for the coffee maker. "Did you see Brad try to do that keg stand? Dude nearly broke his neck." "Yeah, it was something," I replied, keeping my eyes on my laptop. "Thanks for being a good sport about the dare," Derek continued, like we were talking about the weather. "I knew you'd play along. That's why you're the best roommate, and that should have been the end of it." A weird moment at a party, easily explained away by alcohol and peer pressure, except Derek couldn't seem to let it go. It started small. I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. When we'd pass each other in the hallway, his eyes would linger just a beat too long. During our normal hanging out on the couch watching TV, I'd feel his gaze on me instead of on the screen. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but as the days passed, it became impossible to ignore. Derek was looking at me differently, and it was making me incredibly uncomfortable. Not because I didn't like it, which was its own problem, but because I had no idea what it meant. A week after the party, things escalated. I was making dinner, just some pasta and sauce, nothing fancy. When Derek came home from the gym, he walked into the kitchen, and I felt his presence behind me before I heard his voice. "Smells good," he said, so close I could feel the heat coming off his body. "It's just pasta," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're a good cook," Derek said. "I don't think I tell you that enough. You're good at a lot of things." I turned to look at him, spatula still in hand, and found him staring at me with that same intense expression from the party. "Thanks," I said, unsure how else to respond. Derek nodded slowly, then grabbed a water bottle from the fridge and left the kitchen. I stood there, heart racing, wondering what the hell was happening. The next incident was even worse. We were both home on a Friday night, a rare occurrence, and Derek suggested we watch a movie. We settled on the couch with our usual distance between us, but halfway through the film, I felt Derek shift closer, then closer again. By the time the credits rolled, his thigh was pressed against mine, and his arm was stretched along the back of the couch behind my shoulders. "Good movie," Derek said, making no move to get up. "Yeah," I managed to say, hyper-aware of every point where our bodies were touching. Derek turned his head to look at me, and we were suddenly face to face, close enough that I could count his eyelashes. "Connor," he said softly, and there was a question in his voice that he didn't quite ask. "I should go to bed," I said quickly, practically jumping off the couch. "I've got an early morning tomorrow. It's Friday night," Derek pointed out. "Right? Well, I'm tired anyway." "Good night," I called over my shoulder, already halfway to my room. I heard Derek sigh behind me, but I didn't look back. I couldn't because if I looked back and saw what I thought I saw in his eyes, everything would change, and I wasn't ready for that. The problem was, I'd been halfway in love with Derek for about 4 years now. It wasn't something I'd planned or wanted. It had just happened gradually. The way you do unnoticed the seasons changing, until suddenly it's winter, and you're wondering where summer went. I'd buried those feelings deep because Derek was straight, and my roommate, and my best friend, and I wasn't about to ruin all of that by admitting I wanted something more. But now Derek was looking at me like maybe he wanted something more too, and I had no idea how to handle that. So I did what any mature adult would do. I started avoiding him. I began leaving for work earlier and coming home later. I'd eat dinner in my room, claiming I had projects to finish. On weekends, I'd make plans with other friends or find errands that needed running. Anything to minimize the time we spent alone together. Derek noticed. Of course he noticed. We'd lived together for 2 years. He knew my patterns as well as I knew his. "Are you avoiding me?" he asked one evening, cornering me in the hallway as I tried to escape to my room. "No," I said unconvincingly. "I've just been busy." "Connor, we've barely talked in 2 weeks. Did I do something wrong?" The genuine hurt in his voice made my chest ache. "No," I said quickly. "You didn't do anything wrong. I've just had a lot on my mind." "Is this about the kiss?" Derek asked. And there it was, the thing we'd been dancing around for weeks. "I don't know what you mean," I lied. "It was just a dare. It didn't mean anything, right?" Derek said slowly. "It didn't mean anything." He looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just nodded and walked away, leaving me standing in the hallway feeling like the worst person alive. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation, the look on Derek's face, the way his voice had sounded when he asked about the kiss. Around 2 in the morning, I heard a knock on my door. "Connor," Derek's voice came through the wood. "Are you awake?" I should have pretended to be asleep. Instead, I found myself saying, "Yeah, come in." Derek opened the door, backlit by the hallway light, and I could see he was wearing just his basketball shorts, his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. "Can we talk?" he asked. I sat up, pulling my blanket around me like armor. "Sure." Derek came in and sat on the edge of my bed, and I was suddenly very aware that we were alone in my room in the middle of the night, that he was shirtless and close enough to touch. "I can't stop thinking about it," Derek said without preamble. "The kiss," I keep replaying it in my head, and I know it was supposed to be a joke, but Connor, it didn't feel like a joke. Not to me. My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. Derek, I started, but he kept talking. I need to know something, and I need you to be honest with me. Was it just a joke to you? Because if it was, I can get over this and we can go back to normal. But if it wasn't, if you felt even a fraction of what I felt, then I need to know that too. What did you feel? I asked quietly. Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's the thing. I don't even know how to describe it. All I know is that I kissed you, and something clicked into place. Like suddenly all these things I'd been ignoring or pushing down made sense. The way I always want to be around you. The way I get jealous when you talk about going on dates. The way I can't stop looking at you lately because I am trying to figure out if you feel it too. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Derek was saying everything I'd wanted to hear for years, and I had no idea how to respond. You're not gay. I finally managed to say, you've never dated guys. You've never even mentioned being interested in guys. I know, Derek said. Trust me, I've been having a lot of conversations with myself about that. And maybe I'm not gay, maybe I'm bi, or maybe labels don't matter. All I know for sure is that I'm interested in you. Very interested. And I have been for a while. I just didn't let myself acknowledge it until that dare forced me to. This could ruin everything, I whispered. Our friendship, our living situation, everything. I know, Derek agreed. Believe me, I've thought about all of that. I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to talk myself out of this, trying to convince myself that I was reading too much into one kiss. But then I see you avoiding me, see you running away every time we're in the same room. And I realized I'd rather risk ruining everything than spend the rest of my life wondering what if. The vulnerability in his voice, the raw honesty, broke something open inside me. I've been in love with you for 4 years, I admitted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I didn't say anything because you're my best friend and my roommate, and you were straight, and I didn't want to lose you. And then you kissed me at that party, and I thought maybe it meant something, but I was too scared to hope. So I've been avoiding you because being around you and pretending I do and feel this way is killing me. Derek's eyes went wide. 4 years. Give or take, I said with a weak laugh. Connor. Derek breathed my name like a prayer. Why didn't you say anything? For all the reasons I just mentioned. Plus, you're Derek, you're confident and outgoing, and you have your life together. I'm just the quiet roommate who draws pictures and talks to plants. I never thought you'd see me that way. Are you kidding me? Derek said, moving closer. You're the most interesting person I know. You're talented and kind and funny in this subtle way that catches me off guard. You make me want to be better. You make me want to slow down and actually pay attention to my life instead of just rushing through it. I've been falling for you in slow motion for years. I just didn't realize that's what was happening. So what do we do now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Derek reached out and took my hand, lacing our fingers together. I think we should stop overthinking this. I think we should acknowledge that this thing between us is real and see where it goes. And if it doesn't work out, if we try this and it ruins everything, then at least we'll know we tried, Derek said. But Connor, I don't think it's going to ruin everything. I think it might actually make everything better. He leaned in slowly, giving me plenty of time to pull away. I didn't. When our lips met this time, it wasn't for a dare or a joke. It was a choice we were both making, fully aware of what it meant. The kiss was soft and sweet and perfect, and when we finally pulled apart, Derek was smiling. I've wanted to do that again since the party, he admitted. Me too, I said. Derek ended up staying in my room that night. We didn't do anything more than talk and kiss and hold each other, but it felt monumental. We talked about everything. Our fears, our hopes, what this meant for our friendship and our living situation. We agreed to take things slow, to figure this out together without rushing. When I woke up the next morning with Derek's arm around me, I had a moment of panic. What if this was all a dream? What if I'd imagined the whole conversation? But then Derek stirred, opened his eyes, and smiled at me, and I knew it was real. Morning, he said, his voice rough with sleep. Morning, I replied, still not quite believing this was happening. Over the next few weeks, we navigated our new relationship carefully. We didn't tell our friends right away, wanting to make sure this was real before we involved other people. We kept up our normal routines, but added new elements. Holding hands on the couch during movies. Cooking dinner together with stolen kisses between stirring the pot. Falling asleep in each other's rooms more often than not. It wasn't always smooth. Derek had moments of doubt where he'd pull back, overwhelmed by the newness of being with a guy. I had moments of insecurity where I'd wonder if this was just a phase for him. If he'd wake up one day and realize he'd made a mistake. But we talked through those moments. We were honest about our fears and patient with each other's uncertainties. A month after that conversation in my bedroom, we decided to tell our friends. We invited a group over for game night, and midway through the evening, Derek casually mentioned that we were dating. The reaction was mixed. Some people were surprised, some had apparently seen it coming. And Brad from Derek's work just laughed and said it explained so much about Derek's behavior at the Halloween party. You guys are good together, Sophie said at the end of the night. I can see it. You balance each other out. After everyone left, Derek pulled me into his arms. That went better than I thought it would, he said. Were you worried? I asked a little, he admitted. Not about people accepting it, but about making it real by telling them. Like saying it out loud would somehow jinx it. I get that, I said. But we're okay. Better than okay. Yeah, we are, Derek agreed, kissing the top of my head. 3 months into our relationship, we hit our first real rough patch. Derek's ex-girlfriend Rachel reached out, wanting to get coffee and catch up. Derek agreed without thinking about how it might make me feel, and when he mentioned it casually, I couldn't hide my discomfort. It's just coffee, Derek said, confused by my reaction. With your ex, I pointed out. The ex you dated for 2 years. Connor, we broke up over a year ago. We're just friends now. There's nothing to worry about. But I did worry. I worried that seeing Rachel would remind Derek of his old life. The uncomplicated straight relationship that didn't require coming out conversations or navigating new territory. I worried that I was just an experiment, a phase, something he'd eventually grow tired of. I didn't voice those fears right away. Instead, I let them fester, growing resentful and distant. Derek noticed, of course, and called me out on it. What's going on with you? He asked, after 3 days of me giving him the cold shoulder. Nothing, I lied. Don't do that, Derek said firmly. Don't shut me out. If something's bothering you, we need to talk about it. So we did. I told him about my insecurities, about my fear that he'd realize being with a guy was too hard and go back to dating women. Derek listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he took both of my hands in his. Connor, I'm not going to pretend that figuring out I'm attracted to men hasn't been complicated. It has been. But you know what hasn't been complicated? Being with you, loving you. That part has been the easiest thing I've ever done. Rachel is my past, you're my present, and, if you'll have me, my future. Coffee with an ex doesn't change that. I felt the knot of anxiety in my chest start to loosen. I'm sorry, I said. I should have just told you how I was feeling instead of shutting down. Yeah, you should have, Derek agreed. But I also should have realized that telling you about meeting up with my ex would bring up insecurities. We're both still learning how to do this. That became our mantra whenever things got difficult. We're both still learning. It gave us grace to make mistakes, to have moments of doubt, to not have everything figured out. Derek did have coffee with Rachel, and it was fine. He came home and told me all about it. How Rachel was dating someone new and happy. How they'd talked about old times, but mostly focused on their current lives. And I realized that my fears had been bigger than the reality. 6 months into our relationship, we decided to take a trip. Just a long weekend to a cabin in Michigan, away from work and friends and the normal demands of life. It was during that trip, sitting on the porch watching the sunset over the lake, that Derek said the words I'd been too scared to say first. I love you. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I know I haven't said it yet, and I should have said it sooner, but I love you, Connor. I love you in a way I've never loved anyone else. Tears pricked at my eyes. I love you too, I said. I have for so long. Derek pulled me close, and we sat there watching the sun disappear below the horizon, wrapped in each other and the certainty of what we'd built together. That was 8 months ago. Derek and I are still together, still living in the same apartment, still figuring things out day by day. We've had fights and makeups, moments of perfect harmony and moments of frustration. We've navigated the complexities of being roommates and boyfriends, of maintaining our individual identities while building something together. Our friends have adjusted to seeing us as a couple. Derek's family took a little longer to come around, but they're making an effort, which is all we can ask for. My parents, thankfully, were immediately supportive, just happy that I'd found someone who made me happy. Work has been interesting. Derek's company has a robust non-discrimination policy, so he felt comfortable being open about our relationship. My agency is smaller and more conservative, so I've been more cautious about what I share. It's not ideal, but it's manageable. The best part, though, is the everyday moments. Waking up next to Derek on lazy Sunday mornings, making breakfast together while arguing about whether pancakes or waffles are superior, coming home after a long day and finding him on the couch, ready to hear about every detail of my day. The way he still looks at me sometimes, with that same intense expression from those first weeks after the kiss, like he can't quite believe this is real. Last week, we had some friends over for drinks, and someone brought up the Halloween party where it all started. Remember when Derek kissed Connor as a dare? Brad said, laughing. That was hilarious. Best dare I ever accepted, Derek said, squeezing my hand under the table. I thought about that a lot after everyone left. How a single moment, a stupid party game, had completely changed the trajectory of my life. How a kiss that was supposed to be a joke became the beginning of the most real thing I'd ever experienced. Was it scary? Absolutely. Did we handle everything perfectly? Not even close. But we were honest with each other, even when that honesty was uncomfortable. We were patient with each other's fears and insecurities. We chose each other, every day. Even when choosing each other was complicated, people always ask us if we worried about ruining our friendship by dating. The truth is, we did worry about that. But we also realized that our friendship was the foundation of our relationship. We knew each other's worst qualities and chose to be together anyway. We'd already weathered years of living together, of seeing each other at our best and worst. Adding romance to that foundation didn't destroy it. It made it stronger. Sometimes Derek still dares me to kiss him, usually when we're alone in the apartment, when he's feeling playful and wants my attention. And every time, I take that dare. Because kissing Derek, loving Derek, choosing Derek, that's the easiest choice I've ever made. My roommate dared me to kiss him as a joke, and now he won't stop looking at me. But here's the thing I've learned. Sometimes the best things in life start as jokes. Sometimes the person you've been living with all along is the person you're supposed to be living for. And sometimes, a 3-second kiss can change everything. Derek just walked in from his basketball game, sweaty and grinning, and he's looking at me right now with that expression I've come to love. The one that says he's thinking about kissing me. The one that says he's exactly where he wants to be. I dare you, I say, and he laughs because he knows I'm turning the tables on him. He crosses the room in 3 strides and kisses me, and I think about how that first kiss at the party felt like an ending. The end of our uncomplicated friendship, the end of pretending I didn't feel what I felt. But it was really a beginning, the beginning of something real and messy and beautiful. So yeah, my roommate dared me to kiss him, and now he won't stop looking at me. And honestly, I hope he never does.